Listen, we got the strongest and bestest military on earth. You know what I mean? And we're seeing what that nose floss will come for the fart.
Okay. Well, according to one of the congressmen, they said that we were 40,000 enrollees short, and that's why they were allowing incentives for
I heard it's some
immigrants to come over and join the military. So are we still the strongest? Let's see.
Yeah, always.
Let's see.
Always.
I believe it.
Always.
I believe it.
Always, my boy. Always.
Let's see.
That's the only regret I have. I will tell y'all that is I was trying to get in the service and I kept on failing my ASVAB and I got frustrated and just went off and did something else. But I wish I did I probably would have retired military 100%.
Why is the US military the strongest? Great military powers have been appearing and disappearing since the beginning of history.
I know why
Now
we're the
it's time
strongest.
for the United States of America to be the leader in military might. But what makes it so powerful? Will its power remain undisputed? Are there already signs of weakness? Would it really stand in a conflict with potential rivals like China or Russia? To find out, we should analyse why exactly the US military is considered the strongest.
Hit pause real quick before they say.
The numbers.
It was too slow. But I was going to say, because that is the number one area that we put more money in than any other sector in our country is weapons and military.
And I will always be happy with that.
Yeah, I remember that when I was taking prerequisite courses for my master's degree, and I don't know what class I was in, stats, and he showed this graph of the U.S. and where we spend our money, and weapons was out of all the countries, we still were number one that spent more of our money on there, and education was about that big compared to.
Right.
But you could see why.
But think about it, if we were listening to the hippies, the young woke generation, and you flip it and you put all the money in education and with a weak military, education won't matter.
No,
because you'd be invaded so much, you'd be so at distress because all the war and issues would be having. It wouldn't be matter of the education you would have. So
I'm sorry.
Strong military.
I wouldn't feel protected all day.
For strong military, for sure.
The US has 1,400,000 active military personnel. This figure places it in third place in this category. China has the largest army with slightly above 2 million soldiers, while India comes in second place. This doesn't sound that impressive, but what makes the US military stand out is not necessarily the raw number of men. The US has unquestionable air supremacy. The US military is number one in air power, with 13,264 total military aircraft.
Look at the numbers,
that
bro.
is greater than the other 5 greatest air forces combined. 2,085 are air-to-air fighters, 715 ground attack aircraft, 945 transportation aircraft, 5,768 helicopters, and 967 attack helicopters. The US is number one in each aircraft category, except for air-to-ground forces, where it's slightly topped by Russia.
Oh, wow.
The US has a powerful navy that is designed to work in conjunction with its air forces. It has 20 aircraft carriers, 11 are regular fixed-wing carriers, while 9 are capable of hosting only helicopters and short takeoff planes like the F-35B. This is almost half of the world's total number of aircraft carriers, while most of the others belong to allied countries. If we take into account only regular fixed-wing aircraft capacity, the total combined deck space of the US aircraft carriers is over twice that of all the other nations combined. To complement this, the US Navy has the greatest number of destroyers and ranks third in the number of submarines.
North Korea got...
The numbers of the US naval strength are a bit tricky. If we count the total number of naval assets, the US falls in fourth place, behind Russia and China, and even behind North Korea, that boasts a surprising first place. However, in case of a maritime conflict, it would still be hard to counter the power of the US Navy, supported by overwhelming air supremacy and allied forces. Land power. The US is slightly behind Russia regarding raw numbers. American ground forces number 6,289 tanks.
Look at Russia.
39,000 armoured vehicles, 1,465
I will say one thing, the blessing side is we wouldn't worry about, so even though Russia has a larger number of tanks, them tanks wouldn't be over here. We wouldn't be fighting their tanks over here.
True.
of propelled artillery and 1,366 rocket projectors. However, Russia has a lot of outdated vehicles with questionable performance in cases of real conflict. Meanwhile, the US military has a broad technological edge. The US has 5,800 nuclear warheads that make it the world's second largest in nuclear war power.
Ooh.
In this video, we're analysing the
what's
conventional military strength, but it can't be denied that a nuclear arsenal does bring a certain status. Even if things don't escalate to a full-blown nuclear war, it's intimidating to any country to be armoured with such nuclear power.
Absolutely.
The quality. The US Army consists entirely of trained professionals, and many have real combat experience. Since the beginning of this century, the US has been involved in military conflicts in Afghanistan, Iraq, Pakistan, Somalia, Libya, Uganda, and Yemen. While other countries still rely on conscripts to fill the numbers, the US can field an army of well-trained, experienced professionals. The equipment, the military assets, and the technology used in combat have excellent quality. This is the defining reason why US casualties are usually fewer than those of their adversaries. The strong ability to project power is another defining trait of the United States military. Size, technology, and experience are nothing if you can't reach the enemy. Power projection is the ability of a state to deploy and sustain forces outside its territory. Only a few states are capable to overcome the difficulties that involve power projection, and the US excels at it. This is made possible by several factors. The home base of the US is safe. The neighbouring countries are friendly. Potential enemies are far away. The large landmass makes it a country that is hard to invade. It also has coastlines along 2 oceans.
Except when you let people in through different border points that have bad intentions on the line. So they know it's just like a Trojan horse, right? What's the way that a Trojan horse gets loose? They disguise themselves. Once they're into the safe zone, then they release their virus. So that's just like somebody coming in. They can't force their way through tanks, but then get on your land and do crazy stuff because they already in. Mm-hmm. That's the crazy.
And strategic islands that hold military bases. The US forces can reach far, fast, and deploy great numbers of forces supported by the enforcement of air and sea superiority.
I love military.
Combined with excellent transportation capabilities. Even if it doesn't engage in combat, the US can enforce naval and air blockades that can severely cripple an enemy's economy. The US has by far the largest network of military bases operating outside of its territory.
Oh, wow.
Information regarding the exact number and location of such bases involves classified information, so we can only estimate the total extent of the overseas military presence. Back in 2013, the Pentagon stated that there were around 600 military bases overseas.
Wow.
A rough estimate would be around 1,000 overseas US military compounds. Approximately 165,000 military personnel is stationed outside the United States. This doesn't include areas of conflict such as Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan.
Oof.
The US has significant forces deployed in around 55 countries and autonomous territories. It is also estimated that more than 150 countries have a certain degree of US military presence.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Alliances. The United States can rely on a vast network of alliances. It is the de facto leader of NATO, the world's strongest military alliance. 18 other countries are designated as major non-NATO allies. This list includes
Israel.
Countries like Australia, New Zealand, Japan, South Korea, Philippines, Thailand, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Egypt, Israel, Argentina, and Brazil. Taiwan's status is a bit more complicated, and it can be considered a de facto ally. Some countries are not formal allies, but have a strong strategic partnership with the US. One notable example is India, that participates in regular military drills together with US forces and some of its allies. Economy. Modern warfare is sustained in the long term by two main factors: the capacity to produce military equipment and the capacity to spend money on defence.
Unlimited budget.
American defence companies are the indisputable top producers of weaponry. Among the world's top 10 defence suppliers, 5 of them are American companies.
Wow, Lockheed is
Lockheed
number one.
Martin is the biggest. It reported a revenue of almost $60 billion in 2019. That's close to Russia's entire annual military spending. The strength of the US military is also due to its huge military budget. In 2019, spending on the US military was a whopping $732 billion. That's almost 3 times more than China, the world's second largest military spender, and is roughly 1/3 of the entire world's defence budget.
Nobody
While
wants
Russia is
us like
commonly
that.
regarded as the
They want
second
it.
most powerful army in the world, its budget consists of only $65 billion.
Listen, if we weren't such a strong military, every country and every little bit country with a little bit of military would be at our head. This would not be a fun country to live in.
Of course not.
Arguably, there is an aspect of purchasing power. For example, it's cheaper to pay a Russian or Chinese soldier, but the cost of high-quality military equipment is still the same around the world. The reason that the US can afford such an enormous military budget is that it's supported by a strong economy. America has been the world's largest economy since 1871. Its nominal GDP is currently $21.44 trillion US. This is almost a quarter of the global economy, and it's backed with plenty of natural resources, advanced infrastructure and technology. Besides the ability to sustain an enormous defence budget, the US often uses its economic strength as a weapon by enforcing economic sanctions. Soft factors. Soft power is another factor that comes into play when assessing a country's might. The US is world-beating in culture, education and technology. American pop culture has an enormous influence, and this won't change anytime soon. America also hosts most of the world's top-ranking universities with a record number of international students. The US leads the world of technology and digitalization as home to the world's most influential tech companies like Apple, Google, Microsoft, and Facebook. It's easy to think that this doesn't seem important in warfare, but imagine an enemy soldier that would have to attack the country where his cousin studies, the country of his favourite music band, the country of his favourite actors from the movie that he watches on an American media platform like YouTube, or an American smartphone with American software. Finally, there is another critical aspect. It is called the will to fight, and this is the single most important factor in war. The will to fight is the disposition to engage in combat, the determination to keep fighting even when facing precarious odds, and finally to win. At an individual level, a soldier with a low will to fight will avoid engagement with the enemy and is likely to flee when things get tough. A battle is won when the enemy's will to fight is broken. Wars don't end when one military destroys the other. Wars end when one side grows weary of fighting, doesn't see any further purpose in the continuation of the conflict, and gives up.
Wow.
The national will to fight is what keeps a nation fighting. This is commonly linked to a sense of patriotism, national identity, and motivation generated by the idea that one fights for what is right. In the past, this has been a strong point of the US, as Americans have been fighting against dictators and terrorists that lacked concern for human life and dignity. In contrast, the USA has been regarded as a country that embodies values of freedom, democracy, and rule of law. It was the country that defined such values. Even more, it was the country that was willing to fight for these values. The American soldier has been motivated by a sense of moral supremacy rooted in the country's Christian tradition. However, America doesn't seem to be so cohesive in its values anymore. There are many factors intertwined that provoke this. It's a complex topic that deserves a study on its own. But the outcome is that America is now a country that is greatly divided among ideological lines and systems of belief.
Right.
Many of its citizens are not sure what to believe in anymore,
Here we go.
or even what they stand for.
Look at that.
there have been many lessons in history. Small nations became great empires by holding high moral standards along with a disciplined and motivated army. A great empire's fall was usually preceded by internal strife and moral crisis.
Yep.
The final story of the United States of America as a global power is not yet written. The nation's strength rests upon its citizens and their decisions. It's a matter of this great nation getting back its cohesion and moral compass. That is, if it wants to keep its status as the world's greatest superpower and defender of freedom.
And that comes with having the right president. That's what that comes with.
Exactly.
When you have a strong president, you have a strong country.
Who is not corrupt, who does things in a upright way, who looks out for his citizens of the country he's representing, and is fortified, his mind is strong, his body is strong. He cares about other people and not just about his family. That's what Trump stands for.
That's an a miracle.
Is he perfect? Absolutely not. What human on the planet is?
I don't trust a human that even would come in with their personality that they perfect. I don't trust those people because those ones are the worst.
But does he handle business? Is he willing to put himself out there? Well, of course, because that's what's already going on. But yeah, we need fortification.
And we need to keep this country strong, and we can't have ops in here on the land and trying to weaken our country from the inside. And we have to be on top of our technology because there's other countries that I believe that we have the greatest technology, but I believe certain countries have more sophisticated technology even than what we have.
I was going to ask, how old is that video?
I don't know.
Because when they said technology, I didn't know that we were still like leading in that area. I know we were really good, but I thought China had...
This is 3 years.
Oh, okay. I thought China had kind of tapped into some new technological advances that may have propelled them a little further than us. I don't know.
Okay.
But all our technology parts may be made in China, so I don't know.
Right.
That's the only question that I had. Like, okay, how old is this?
It is.
Yeah.
But we still have to. This is the greatest country on the planet.
Oh, well, most definitely.
Definitely. I would love to have residency in some beautiful places, but as far as just giving up my citizenship, I would never. I'm always going to be American. You know.
No, thank you. There you go.
I'm proud to be American. Macho man. So
macho man.
That's an American song.
Listen.
Hey, y'all, another good movie to go to see. That's eye-opener was Civil War. Civil War was a good eye-opener about.
I didn't like how it ended, but
yeah,
it made you really think. It's like when I came outside of the movie theater and I was in the car, I had to let my brain decompress because it was so surreal that life is the way we see it right now, but in the blink of an eye, something could shift and it be completely different. And I was like, wow.
My baby would get in the car. She got in the car. Anything that started a red light, somebody honk, she was like,
oh, please. You are so extra.
I'm like, bro, it's just,
Stop telling tales, boy.
This ain't happened yet.
Stop telling tales.
But
don't believe that. He is such an exaggerator, guys. He's such an exaggerator.
A two-state government would be scary.
It just made me think about The Walking Dead. You know, it just made me think about The Walking Dead. It did. I was just like, okay. And how one day it was everything was great, and then all of a sudden the country was at an uproar. And then you got two opposing forces within the U.S. that are going after, attacking each other. It was crazy. I was like, wow. You guys got to see it if you haven't, and if you already have.
Civil War. Go to the movies.
Put like what your favorite part was in the comment section. Also, let us know like what were some of your thoughts. You don't have to give us your whole life story, but what did that make you think about, and was it surreal to you? I mean, can you actually see something like this happening? Hope to God, no. However, it's like in the event, how prepared are you?
How prepared are you in the event?
We've been talking about prepping and certain items and things for the past couple of years now.
That's why we're big fans of that. We're big fans of that.
So
and we got some combat training coming up, so that's gonna be fun.
What did you think of the movie? favorite parts, and
if you haven't seen it, go see Civil War. So why it's still out in theaters.
And, you know, how are you preparing in the event something like this does happen for you and your household? Because at the end of the day, when it hits the fan, it's going to be every household for themselves.
That's right. All right, y'all. 2024, be more.
Talk less. You may have to help your
Talk-
neighbor too, of course, but
Talk,
you know.
talk a little less. We won't get the boom, boom, motor running.
Anyway.
We'll see you on the next one, man.
Have something to help somebody else out too.
All right.